Alright guys, so today's video we're going to be trying out the new Morphe JACLYN Hill brushes. You guys wanted to see this. I put a poll on Instagram stories and it was about 85% said yes. So I'm just going to use this, but I didn't want to do a full dedicated just because if you don't really care about that, then I wanted to use some more products. This is the Liquid Frost from Jeffree Star. I did buy this. I have this I Love Sarah E highlighter I've yet to use. I have the Be Perfect palette. This is the Carnival palette. And then I have a new Sigma blush palette. So I have, you know, some new releases. If you're not interested in the brushes, I'm kind of just going to play around with some new makeup and use the brushes and tell you my thoughts. So when you buy the Master Collection, you do get this box. It is hard. It is smooth. Even though it's sparkly, it doesn't have like texture to it. And then you just pop it open and you have your brushes that will sit in there. So you can travel with it and it won't kind of come undone or ruin your brushes. So if there's anything that you want to put in here, even besides brushes that you don't want to get like squashed or kind of bent, you could put it in this box. So I do like this. I think it's very functional. So here are the brushes. Obviously I'm not going to be able to use all of them. There's 24 in the set. It is $165 for the case and 24 brushes, and then you can use a code to get 10% off. They also have an eye set and a face set that are like around $50 or $40. So I'll have everything linked down below. You can use 10% off BabsBeauty. I'll put it on the screen. And I'm just going to give you my thoughts. I'm going to use the brushes as I typically would doing my makeup, and I'm just going to tell you how they feel. So the first brush I'm going to use is the JH03. This is the brush that JACLYN prefers to apply her foundation. So I'm just going to get the hair out of my face and we're going to start blending. As I said, I have used the original brush like this and I like it. I like brushes like this, any kind of rounded kabuki brush. I have in the past used like the Sigma, what's it, F80, and I feel like now it's so stiff that it's kind of sweeping the product back and forth. So I prefer something with a little bit more give, but I still do like a dense brush because the denser the brush, the more coverage you're gonna get. So I am using Estee Lauder Double Wear. I'm just kind of doing circular motions and then I'm going to pat it in or stipple in where I need more help. So I applied my foundation and I feel like it did a good job. This is again the type of brush that I would grab for. I pulled 3 other brushes that I have that I use for foundation, and if you can see, they're all very similar. I guess let me give you a close-up. We have an Urban Decay, we have a Makeup Geek, we have a Juvia's Place. So really you're getting the same kind of buffing, rounded kabuki. So I'm going to apply some concealer. I want to use the new Studio Fix. I did use this in a previous video, but I've really been enjoying it. And I am actually going to use a beauty blender just because I prefer that with my concealer. Now I have used a brush before, but it's just not my preferred way. So I'm not going to kind of do something different than I typically would. So to apply my powder, sometimes I use a beauty blender most of the time, and sometimes I use a brush. I'm going to use the Morphe JH08, which is just like a small brush. You could use this to blend out your concealer. Again, it's not my preferred way, but just to show you 2 other options that I do use. I have a Morphe C40, and then I have a BH Cosmetics brush. So you can see all very similar, all going to do the same thing, and that's how I'm going to apply it. If I do use a brush, this is the way I do it. So I sweep a little bit under my eyes to kind of set the creases, and then to bake, I typically do use a beauty blender to really pack on the powder. I'm going to be using the Milk Makeup Blur powder. I really like this. I've only used it, I think, once or twice now, and I'm just like, woo, it made me look so blurred. So I'm going to use this and apply under the eyes. So first I'm going to get rid of any creasing. So as I said, I'm going to take some on a beauty blender and just kind of really apply it to bake. For the remainder of my face, I am going to use the JH01, which is massive. This is a huge brush. I typically would use a beauty blender to stamp in my powder, but I am going to use this just to demo it. This is something that I would probably use more so to bronze up my neck. I don't know if I would use it for bronzer even. I prefer a smaller brush, but I know a lot of people do like big brushes like this. So I'm just going to dip into my Benefit Hello Flawless powder. You can see I've hit pan. I've talked about this before. And I'm just going to kind of stipple it in to set the rest of my face. The reason I typically use a beauty blender is because I like more of an intense powder set just because my foundation will wear off. But I know a lot of people like to just kind of lightly set. And this brush feels really nice, and I mean, it doesn't feel cheap or scratchy. It feels very soft. Kind of feels like the Marc Jacobs, what is it? The Omega bronzer brush. That's what it reminds me of. Actually quite a bit. So I'm gonna quickly do my eyebrows off camera just because there's not like a brush for eyebrows, and then I will jump back and we'll start on the eyes. All right, so I zoomed you in and we're gonna go into the Be Perfect Cosmetics Stacey Marie palette. Actually, let me give you a close up. This is so freaking pretty, like wow. I did use this yesterday and just for like some neutral colors, and I have swatched it and it is impressing me. So you get 2 highlighters and you get all these eyeshadows. So I'm going to do something kind of neutral because I am going to see family. So we're going to play around with it, and then moving forward I'll do like a crazy like tutorial with it. Okay, I'm going to start off with the shade Keen right here, which is like the bright yellow. For a brush, I'm going to use the JH36. To me, this reminds me almost of like a Sigma. I forget what the name is of it, but it's just like a typical blending brush. So I'm just going to take this and apply to the crease. I really just want a little bit of this to give me a wash. Wow, that is pigmented. Now I'm going to go into the shade Foolish. Okay, for this I'm going to use the JH34 just to show you it's like a tapered pointy blending brush. So I'm going to apply this in the crease. I feel like we're just going to do like a really pretty kind of sunset look. This brush feels good. This is something that I would definitely grab for, because I do like that tapered end because it really gets your product in the crease. These freaking shadows are wowing me right now. They are so like smooth and just blending as they should. So now I'm gonna go in with the JH30. This is the biggest blending brush that she has. It's just still tapered, but it's the biggest. I'm gonna use this just to go over any harsh edges. So just to kind of make sure that everything is blended nicely and seamlessly, I'm just gonna take this and fluff it over. Okay, now I'm gonna go into the shade Shuffle, which is like a mustard color up here. For this, I'm gonna use the JH33. Now this is just like a kind of flat blending brush. So when you turn it to the side, it's more flat, and then it's like fluffy. So I would use this on the outer corner. So I'm just gonna use this on the lower outer corner. Next, I'm gonna go into the shade Rowdy, which is this deep brown. So I'm using that same brush, and I'm just going to add some depth out here. So now I'm gonna go into the shade Moony, and I'm gonna wet my brush. I'm gonna use the JH41. This is supposed to be a dupe for the MAC 242. I think that's what she said. Alright, so the brush I like, I can do a cut crease basically, or half cut crease, because once you wet the brush it gets very small and compact. So I would say wet it if you want to kind of do a cut crease without concealer. The eyeshadow, I'm not loving that formula. It's a little bit chunky. It's almost like that duochrome formula. I'm actually going to go back into the palette into Saint, which is the highlighter right here, and I'm going to apply a little bit of this to kind of make it cohesive. So I do actually like this brush. I would use this again to kind of cut the crease, and I feel like it picked up product nicely. So I'm going back into the JH34, back into the palette into that Rowdy brown shade, and I'm going to blend these harsh edges. So I'm blending and kind of stippling. I like this brush. This one stands out to me as one that I would probably use a lot. So now I'm going to go into the shade Liquor, which is like this deep, it's like a brown purple, and I'm going to use this flat definer on my lower lash line. So this brush I do like. It did what it was supposed to do, and I would use it also to clean up under my brows, so it's kind of a multi-use. I'm actually going to go back with the JH34 into the same kind of purpley shade and just kind of tie it into the top. Just so we're getting a little bit of that purple. Now I'm going to go into the shade right here called Basic, which is just like a light tan. And I'm going to use the JH37. This is kind of like a pencil brush, a little bit bigger. So I would use this to sweep on my lower lash line. So now I'm just kind of blending this out, kind of blowing it out a little bit more. And then I'm also going to go into the shade Lit and apply some of that. So for this shade, I'm going to use the JH40. This is like an M506, a brush that I really like for the lower lash line or precise blending. So I'm just applying the littlest bit of that just to bring in the sunset vibes. So I'm quickly going to apply liner and mascara and lashes, and then we will jump back into the face. Okay, so to finish off the eyes, I am going to go back into the palette into the shade Pink Me. This is like a white base, but it has like a pink shift. And I'm going to use this to highlight my inner corner. For this, I'm going to use the JH42, which is a really tiny brush. You could use this to put color on the lid as well for more precise looks. Okay, really like that color. I'm also going to use it to highlight the brow. Okay, so now we're going to contour. I'm going to use the JH05, and I believe this is the one that she was like raving about, saying it's like her favorite contour brush of life. So I'm using the Urban Decay Shapeshifter palette, and I'm just going to contour out these cheeks. Okay, so I think this brush is nice, but it's not my favorite. I know everybody's different, but I prefer a much more precise contour. This I would use more for blush, or I would use this for bronzing. So it's not my favorite for contour, but it did the job. To bronze, I'm going to go into the JH02, and this is her favorite bronzing brush, if I could speak. So I'm going to use this with the Marc Jacobs bronzer. So I typically like a smaller brush, but I know a lot of people like big brushes like this to contour. Or not contour, bronze. So I'm just going to use it. It feels very nice and soft. It is doing a good job of bronzing without giving me any harsh lines. Okay, so I actually really like this brush. I would use this again to bronze. It's a very nice all over bronze. It doesn't give you any harsh lines. So this is actually a favorite from what I've tried. For blush, I'm going to use the JH04, and this is the blush brush that she recommends, just like an angled blush brush. I'm also going to go into the new Sigma blush palette, and I think I'm going to go into this pink shade. And these launch, I believe, on the 12th, so I'll have it linked if I can. It's a pretty shade. I do like this brush too because it fits right in your cheek area. So for highlighter, I want to try this new Jeffree Star Liquid Frost in Peach. What is this? Frozen Peach. And I'm a little nervous because I already have my foundation like powdered. So I'm just going to take the tiniest bit. I'm just going to apply with my fingers as a base for the powder. It's really pretty, you can see right there. And for our powder highlight, I want to go into this Dose of Colors Soulmate. This is the I Love Sarah E collection. And for the brush, I'm going to use the JH09, which is supposed to be a dupe for the M501, which I use all the time to highlight. Okay, really like this brush. This is one that I use all the time, so she said it was just the same. This is for a very intense highlight, And I really like the highlighter too. To highlight down the center of my nose, I'm going to use the JH39, which is like a really, really tiny pencil brush. Very similar to what I would use typically. Okay, so I lined my lips and I used the Charlotte Tilbury Iconic Nude. For lipstick, I'm going to go in with this Lip Whip from Beauty Bakery and Honey. I did a video with them on Instagram and I really like this color and you guys seem to like it too. It is light, but once I put on like a lip liner, it's like really pretty. And then to top that off, I'm going to go in with this Presidential Lip Gloss from Hank & Henry. I purchased this. This is just a shimmery gloss. They have a bunch of colors. They're pretty sheer. And they have a minty smell. Alright guys, so here is the finished makeup look and I really am happy with everything I tried. Really love the Dose of Colors I Love Sarah E highlighter. Very, very pretty. Very intense. Really like the Liquid Frost. I'll have to use this some more, but I just used it on my cheekbones, but you could use it all over your chest or mixed in with your foundation. As I mentioned before, the matte concealer is really nice. The Milk Makeup Blur Powder I really like as well. This palette is beautiful. You could do so many looks with it. I really want to get into the colorful side of it, so if you want to see that, let me know down below. Also really like the Beauty Bakery lipstick, and I also like the gloss, of course. So talking about the JACLYN brushes, I think they're great brushes. I think if you are new to makeup or you don't have a huge collection and you just want to do something easy where you just buy the kit and you're good, I feel like it has pretty much everything that you're going to need to do your makeup. Do I think every single brush is a necessity? No. There's some that stood out to me more than others. I will put it in the description box down below in terms of which brushes stood out to me as being something that I would keep like top drawer, or something that stood out to me. I actually, oddly enough, did not like the contour brush. Not for contouring at least. So everybody's different. Everybody has different preferences. So overall, do I think they're worth it? Yes. If you did pick them up or you're planning to pick them up, I think it is an easy way to just get a bundle, not have to think about it, and just get your makeup done. I really don't think that there's a brush missing from there, so I feel like there's a lot of eye brushes, and you can basically do any look that you want to do. So I definitely think that they're nice brushes. You don't need them. The thing is about makeup, you don't need any of it. You don't need it. So it's a matter of, do I want it? Do I want to spend the money? Do I want to splurge? So they are good products, and I think if you spend your money on it, you're going to be happy with what you get. So that concludes this video. I think everything turned out beautifully. Let me know down below what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.